The Warrens have returned in the newest installment to the Conjuring series. Now, does it stick the landing in closing out this trilogy, or not so much? Let's find out. The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It has now been released on HBO Max and to theaters around the country and marks the 8th installment into the Conjuring universe. The Conjuverse, the Coniverse, whatever. It's the 8th one, and marking the 8th installment to the series that all typically, in some form or another, deals within the horror subgenre of demonic possession. I have to admire this film's attempt to offer something different than anyone may expect in a Conjuring movie. The movie essentially begins where most Conjuring movies would end. You see the Warrens exorcising the demons out of a small child where, unbeknownst to Lorraine, the demon actually latches itself onto one Ernie Johnson, the soon-to-be brother-in-law to the boy possessed. Now, the Warrens think that all is well until some time later when Arnie is possessed to kill someone in broad daylight, actually stabbing the man 22 times. Yeah, now the Warrens must find out why the family was the target for this possession and how they can prove that this boy was in fact possessed and didn't really have any say in whether or not he was going to stab a man. So with this setup and some other components of this film, I found that it had the most potential to be actually really interesting. We get to see what is the legal aftermath and the ramifications of the events that we would typically see in most possession movies. How do you prove the existence of demonic possession in the court of law? That paired with the concept of the foil to the Warrens. Essentially, you get to see someone who is the yin to their yang. Instead of expelling demons from people like the Warrens do, this person actually uses witchcraft to invite the demons in. On paper, that sounds really compelling and sounds like it would bring some much needed variety into this series, but unfortunately, it's just not that interesting of a movie, and I'll tell you why. First and foremost, the film establishes itself as pretty much a mystery movie. You have Ed and Lorraine Warren who are on the case trying to track down the person who put a curse on this family. So the entire film, they're trying to figure out who this person is and how they can eventually stop them. The only problem with this is, as an audience member, you get a pretty solid idea of who this person is within the first 15 minutes of the movie. Now, no, you might not know their name or their location, but you kind of get the idea. And aside from a pretty needless plot twist towards the end of this movie, for the majority of this film, you're mostly just watching the Warrens go on this crusade to find a person that you kind of already know the identity of, aside from a few details. Additionally, something that has been ever present in a lot of the Conjuring movies of late is their really just not that scary. And I say that in regards not to the fact that I wasn't personally scared, but I don't really think many people would be scared. Especially because if you've seen the two prior Conjuring movies, this film essentially follows the same old, tired setup and payoff that you've seen in most of the scares in this series, and it's honestly kind of old at this point. No, the scares aren't abysmal, and for the most part they do avoid false jump scares, which I will always applaud when a bigger studio horror film does that. But for a film that seems to want to really shake up this franchise a bit and offer something new, it does feel like they kind of just forget to do that in one key area, and that's how they're going to scare the audience. And when a horror movie does that, kind of a big part of it. In addition to that, and I think it's something that has really plagued the series since the first film, and that is a sense of grit and realism to these films. See, part of the allure of the first Conjuring movie is that a lot of that film, it feels at least in the realm of reality. And if you believe in demonic possession and all that sort of stuff, but it does seem that with each subsequent sequel, they seem to strain further and further away from that grounded sense of reality and move even further into the more fantastic, particularly in regard to the person in this film who is doing all the witchcraft. And what they can do seems to kind of stray so far beyond the possibilities of what may be possible with witchcraft and kind of gets lost in, well, it's a big blockbuster horror movie, so let's just move the boundaries of reality as much as we can because it doesn't really matter. And when you're watching a movie that is already paranormal and already supernatural, and you're not even able to suspend your disbelief to that degree, it stops becoming scary. And that's not to say that all horror movies have to be realistic in order to be scary, because obviously not. I'm a big fan of the first Conjuring movie. But I do think that this movie really missed a great opportunity to show someone who is essentially the antithesis of the Warrens, who has all of this knowledge, but instead of using it for good like they do, they use it for evil. That's interesting. But when you make them just another ghost or specter to be defeated, that paired with a story that is pretty meandering and scares that are a bit off from being as effective as the filmmakers probably wanted them to be, the result is a movie that's honestly just kinda boring. So did you guys see The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It? What did you think about it? Where do you think it ranks in regards to the other Conjuring movies? Make sure you leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked today's video, and if you did, you can click on the link down below where you can subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and movie related things. And you guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.